Hello, 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 everybody.
Hey,
Give me
what's
your
going
1 second.
on?
Marky Bay.
Red, nice to meet you all.
Selena, how are you?
All right. We have a bit of some informative, insightful information for y'all today. Some people have been asking and wanting to know about different things and different processes. So today we just wanted to get to know where everybody's at, what people want to know. As far as like for me, Red and Selena, it's something that we are always doing and growing on. So we're here really to ask any questions to anybody that's new, to give everybody any understanding or anything that they might be wondering about, process-wise, just different questions. I mean, I'm going to be coming at you guys today definitely more from an angle of just understanding why this information is important today, why there's a priority to it, what are the reasons for it, and I'll sporadically just add different information. I think, again, a lot of this I'm coming at people from a sense of trying to be more adult-like and responsible with what's going on rather than just assuming somebody's going to take care of the problem or coming from the or looking at the problem better emotionally, learning how to better analyze and critically think and engage, especially with current events, things that have taken in the past and things that are planned to take place. So in reality, I'm just here to try to answer any questions, to try to grow community of awareness here in the Rio Grande Valley and link up with other groups that are on this plight, on this work, on this path to try to help humanity get to a point where we're no longer stagnating the human uh, outcome, the human future that, I mean, affects all of us as a whole. And the sooner we realize that, the better we all could be at helping each other and doing what we need to help each other and get to where we need to. I mean, so like I said, I mean, everybody like Red and Selena know I could talk for a bit about information. So I kind of want to open it up more to Red and Selena to see if they have maybe any questions anybody's asked them or people that are wondering. Because I know there's some people that are wanting to know this information. I haven't seen really anything like as far as chats the on the YouTube side that people have put so that I could maybe we could start with. But you know, I know Red and Selena has spoken with some people, or maybe themselves have some questions. So y'all want to let me know? Let me know.
Buenos días. Primeramente, pues yo voy a hacerlo un poquito Spanglish, inglés y español, solamente porque en este movimiento de nosotros que estamos haciendo es para unificar a toda nuestra gente de las Américas, continente norte y sur. Es una información que todos requerimos. Mi hermano Mark aquí lo hace la mayoría en inglés. Habla español, yo voy a tratar de ser lo más español para comunicarnos, para que haya esa mezcla. Pues básicamente es la clase sobre la soberanía, de cómo somos nosotros adultos queriéndonos hacer más conscientes para poder entender cómo nosotros somos los que anclamos el mundo, la evolución humana, para que ya no salgamos de ese loop en el que hemos estado atorados como humanidad, donde nos controlan como masas. Entonces es la importancia de la conciencia y la conexión con la naturaleza y el cuerpo humano. Muchas personas me han preguntado, Mark, y te voy a hacer pregunta a ti, porque tú eres una persona que conozco que tiene muchos años de búsqueda, de research, right? So I'm going to ask you this question. What is what is it actually the sovereign being, que es el soberano, y cómo lo estamos relacionando con los moros. Porque esta es una pregunta que yo te tengo a ti y la voy a hacer porque para que todos escuchen, porque sé que a lo largo de este camino hay personas que van a también toparse con esta pregunta. Hay dos moros que yo he encontrado, los Moor y los Moor, los que están con doble O y los que tienen la U adentro, que son como la misma gente, pero unos vienen de Morocos, que es los con la doble O, ¿verdad? Que vienen de la parte de África, y luego los Moor con la U, que son del Suramérica, el continente de las Américas, que se unificaron juntos para entender la soberanía y la historia, porque ya existía aquí en las Américas un imperio, ¿verdad? Que es al que nos estamos unificando nosotros para no quedar bajo el gobierno. ¿Qué nos puedes comentar sobre eso?
No, sí, claro que sí, pues como dices, sí llevo varios años investigando esta información antes de que se hiciera, o sea, algo que ahora es como el style, por decir, ¿entiendes? Es como casi
Moda.
que la gente busca y yo vine a esta información acerca de buscando una verdad para poder entender, porque pues como cuando yo miraba el mundo, miraba que todavía había bastantes problemas y pues una persona espiritual se pone a preguntar de volada, pues ¿cómo puede haber tanto problema en el mundo si decimos que hay una organización espiritual o avanzada que creó la humanidad y la creación? O sea, ¿cómo llegamos a este punto? Y en ese mismo aspecto, pensando yo, dije, pues para que pueda seguir continuando, tiene que haber algo que estamos haciendo nosotros que está permitiendo que eso se haga.
Mm,
O sea, porque, como digo, si la creación es una creación organizada, armonizada, avanzada, entonces, ¿por qué no está así organizada y armonizada? Y
mm,
en esa búsqueda me comencé a dar de entender sobre la ley. Especialmente en esto fue personas más europeas, por decir, como Jordan Maxwell, nos venimos también a David Windmiller, nos venimos también a personas, a ver, que se me vienen ahorita a la cabeza, personas hablando en lo esotérico, pero entendiendo que lo esotérico y las palabras tenían que ver bastante en cómo el hombre se dominaba en el aspecto de conciencia y civilización. También a Santos Bonacci, personas así, ¿verdad? Y pues yo me puse a pensar, porque yo soy un tipo de persona cuando hay información de volada, o sea, como en las reglas herméticas busco la polaridad, o sea, si personas de la sociedad europea, están hablando de esto, ¿dónde están las personas del color opuesto? ¿Me entiendes? O sea, personas morenas, personas más morenas, personas menos morenas, personas con ojos de almendra. O sea, yo comienzo a buscar dónde más se está platicando esta información, ¿verdad? En ese punto, comencé a hallar a Hakim Bey y José Pimienta Bey. Y ellos nos comenzaron a hablar sobre la historia de las Américas, pero una perspectiva diferente. Y esto yo, pues como ya venía también estudiando cosas de la Atlántida, de los egipcios, de los mayas y todo eso, yo ya entendía también que había un nivel alto de civilización en las Américas y se reflexionaba en egipcio. O sea, yo lo podía notar porque pues yo también estudio arte, es algo que me gusta hacer en el lado, y por la simbología y por cierto estética en lo que dirías, en cómo sea su arqueología, disculpa, su arquitectura, yo podía ver que había una similaridad. O sea, no, para mí no era algo muy extraño. Lo que yo buscaba eran las huellas, que enseñaba esto en una forma donde la gente lo podía entender, porque a lo mejor ellos no podían ver estas mismas huellas. Cuando Hakim Bey y José Pimienta Bey comienzan a platicar y comienzan a hablar de ese nivel alto de civilización, yo comencé de volada a entender. Y cuando ya descubrí en ese entonces a Taj Tariq Bey, que él es un super maestro, por decir, me comenzó a dar la conexión igual con Abdullah Bey sobre la etimología y la ley y las palabras en relación con ese nivel alto de civilización y por qué eran los mayas y los aztecas, disculpa, que cuando miras al tonal macho, o como dicen el calendario azteca, mira uno la lengua en el medio del calendario, que te está enseñando la importancia de la comunicación que tenían las culturas antiguas. Y cuando uno mira también la sabiduría metafísica de los egipcios, tienen el mismo pensar, diferente forma de expresar su arte y cómo escribirlo, que eso nomás te enseña más sobre la forma de que el antiguo moro podía expresarse. Ahora, cuando comencé a ver estas huellas, yo comencé de volada a entender que esta era la forma en que la gente se estaba dominando y se estaba permitiendo en un nivel alto de armonización y de creación que se permitieran estas cosas para pasar. Porque en ese entonces las personas estaban haciendo parte del acepto de que se permitiera hacer por no entender. Ahí es cuando yo comencé a clavarme más, a querer entender sobre la información y para ver si mi teoría que estaba teniendo en ese punto era verdad. Y esto fue
Entonces,
en el 2010.
lo que tú explicas es de que tú empezaste a encontrar mucha información de lo que es como la nobleza, de la estructura, de la legal, de la gente, de la alta sociedad, lo que sea. Ahorita se escucha alta sociedad como la gente de más dinero, pero antes la gente de alta sociedad no nomás era más dinero, era mucha educación, mucho intelecto, mucha sabiduría, ciencia, arte, arquitectura, todo lo que forma una civilización, ¿verdad? Entonces tú me estás diciendo que al tú observar todas estas cosas que estaban existentes ya en la parte europea, tú dijiste, ¿dónde está la parte el color opuesto de la gente que se parece más a mí? Porque pues no soy blanco, de color azul, ¿no? Entonces tú encontraste ahora a José Pimentón y a Tariq Bey y a todas estas personas que eran de tez oscura, ¿verdad? De alta pigmentación en la piel, que hablaban de las mismas cosas, pero tú me estás diciendo que lo están hablando como desde el punto en de que ellos fueron los que inicialmente crearon todas estas estructuras de gobierno, cuando fueron unificados, vamos a decir, con los europeos, fueron conquistados, fue robada la forma, la estructura, ¿no? Entonces, nuestra gente se unió con ellos porque nuestra gente no tenía las cosas a lo mejor escritas en papel y ellos sí, y se unieron, pero al unirse ellos tomaron control de lo que sería nuestro sistema gubernamental. Y ahora nosotros tenemos que tomar control de nuevo con el lenguaje, con la ley, con las mismas estructuras creadas, porque es el gobierno existente.
Sí, porque eso
Entonces,
es fundación de la civilización. Eso es lo que se mete, porque cuando te metes también a las cosas espirituales y sobre la ley, vas
ajá,
allá a conceptos bastante que tienen que ver con la anarquía y que
ok.
yo entiendo muy bien el concepto de eso de anarquía, pero el punto viene para atrás que llega un punto cuando tienes personas anarquistas que si son civilizadas, avanzadas y elevadas, saben cómo unirse y trabajar juntos, aunque puedan tener diferentes formas de pensar o cómo estructurarse. Y también si son inteligentes, cómo entonces ir a aprender de uno al otro para ver si pueden adoptar o aplicar ciertas cosas que van a ayudar a avanzarte más a ti y a tu pueblo. Al fin del punto, una persona educada, avanzada, que entiende las cosas, que es espiritual, siempre está haciendo un análisis de lo que entiende, sus conceptos del mundo y si son correctos y qué partes necesito quitar y qué cosas necesito mejorar o
Como,
avanzar o elevar. Y esto
como
se
entonces,
reflexionaba, nomás quiere decir, se reflexionaban los antiguos de cuando estudias a la gente de las Mesoaméricas o diferentes partes del mundo, hacían lo que se llamaba el renuevo del fuego cada 52 años, en específico aquí en las Mesoaméricas, donde quebraban y rompían y quemaban todo y reconstruían de nuevo. Por eso cuando hayan pirámides, hayan arriba pirámides, arriba de pirámides. Pero la pirámide que se hacía arriba siempre era un mejoramiento de lo que era anterior. So, aquí lo que está enseñando la gente es que ellos iban evolucionando y elevando su entendimiento, pero igual, porque la gente igual va a ver a una persona que hizo una monda de tierra y no la va a ver elevada. Estamos hablando de diferentes formas de estéticas, como un budista que se va y se reclusa en el monte o en una montaña para entender más profundamente, y una persona que va a las puntas de las pirámides para comunicar y elevar a las civilizaciones. Los dos tienen cosas que son importantes para ayudar al humano a avanzar más. Pero el punto viene para atrás en lo que dices, así como una unión o un juntar estos entendimientos, aunque no todos tengamos el igual, mismo forma de ser en ciertos aspectos, pero como intelectos podemos llegar a una raíz y una fundación para ayudarnos a juntarnos. Y hablando del moro, como estaba diciendo, de oscuro a más claro, también hay moros que uno los nombraría blancos, pero uno que tiene que entender cuando uno se mete a hablar de moros, los moros no miran en colores porque ellos entienden que el color es algo que se creó para dominar al humano. Esos son conceptos de control, pero viene para atrás, son cosas que nosotros necesitamos entender a quitarnos porque luego nos dominan o nos vendan en ver las cosas, porque luego nosotros mismos nos tiramos en cajas que se crearon para dividirnos.
la pregunta es, entonces, podemos decir que lo que estamos haciendo aquí es unificando y modificando el pensamiento, usando todas las estructuras ya creadas, pero solamente acogiéndonos de las que nos benefician para crear una nueva fundación a la que nos vamos a acoger todos en este nuevo cambio que está pasando en la sociedad, porque obviamente vienen diferentes cambios a la sociedad que están pasando. Yo te quería preguntar, yo estoy igual que tú estudiando la DES, yo soy muy preguntona, ¿no? Entonces, eso yo entiendo perfectamente que no se trata del color de la piel. Lo que sí te quiero preguntar es, cuando tenemos a los moros, ¿no? La estructura gubernamental a la que se están acogiendo los moros, se están escogiendo a la constitución ya establecida. ¿Esa es la misma constitución que se quedaría? ¿Tú crees en esta segunda etapa que está cambiando la estructura gubernamental? ¿O tú crees que al nosotros hacer esto nos vamos a tener que salir del sistema, nos unificamos al sistema? ¿O cómo es como nosotros nos estamos acogiendo al sistema, adquiriendo nuestra soberanía?
Esa es una buena pregunta, porque es algo que bastante gente, especialmente en el grupo Moro y otras partes, yo como estudio con personas que están en, o sea, lo más, diría yo,
Cercano.
lo más cercano o lo más elevado a lo que están tratando de hacer ahorita los grupos moros y en el entendimiento eso, en cómo se relaciona a la ley internacional. Es una buena pregunta porque bastantes personas en ciertos grupos moros dicen que la constitución es algo que protege a los moros, ¿verdad? Pero cuando uno se mete a entender la ley internacional, lo que realmente la constitución es actualmente un contrato entre los europeos y los moros en lo que ellos van a hacer para respetar a los moros. Los moros necesitan juntarse y hacer o sea, un reclamo para regresar para atrás a sus constituciones antiguas y sus formas y sus tratos antiguos, porque bastantes también no se trajeron al poniente o al presente. Estos son como el Iroquois Confederacy, que es como una constitución que ahí se mete a bastantes cosas que se meten a cómo se gobernaban los moros, porque esta es la constitución de los moros. Estos son lo que creó el aspecto del Constitutional or Continental Congress, que se creyó que tuvimos presidentes antes de George Washington, que ahí es donde se mete que el primer presidente actualmente era por decir negro, porque estamos hablando del nivel de su melanina, pero en realidad, por decir, era un moro, porque pues cuando uno entiende la ley, alguien no puede estar en un asiento de gobernamiento teniendo la entidad de negro, porque eso quiere decir que eres muerto en la ley. En ese entonces, esto se mete a cosas que la Constitución es algo que nosotros necesitamos entender y aprender para poder saber cuándo los europeos no están respetando la Constitución y nosotros decirles que no la están representando y entonces tomar a cargo las cosas que necesitamos para hacerlos responsables por hacer eso. Y esa es la cosa con la Constitución. Se necesita entender de un aspecto de contexto, de cuándo se creó, por qué se creó y qué fueron las cosas que estaban ocurriendo en ese entonces. Y de ahí también se pone quién fueron los primeros que los reconocieron a los americanos, porque lo reconocieron las gentes de Moraco. Y esto no estamos hablando del Moraco, que es el Moraco de hoy en día, que se hizo libre en los 1900. Estamos hablando de un moraco antiguo, eso es lo que la gente, porque obviamente la gente cuando va a entender moraco va a decir, pues hay un moraco ya, sí hay un moraco ya, pero no estamos hablando del mismo moraco antiguo. Estamos hablando de entidades políticas que se crearon con un aspecto de entendimiento de razas y cómo dividir a la gente, que también podemos jugar ese juego, pero desafortunadamente todos estos reinos y todos estos diferentes gobiernos y razas no están jugando de forma por ley opositiva o ayudando a avanzar la humanidad. Entonces la humanidad se necesita poner las pilas y hacer algo opuesto para reemplazar ese mismo sistema. Si no, pues vamos a irnos por donde nos conducen.
Y tú, Steph, ¿cómo vas entendiendo? Porque yo sé que es mucho, porque tenemos que aprender como backwards, we have to learn like backwards the story. Tenemos que soltar muchas cosas que tenemos programadas de creencias y pensamientos y religiones y como confiar en nuestro instinto para poder acogernos a lo que es más verdadero, ¿no? ¿Cómo la ves tú, Steph?
Well, first, I would like to say how important it is to try to speak both English and Spanish. Um, like for example, for me, I'm more of an English speaker, and I do understand some Spanish, but we are talking about some very big words and then words that some people don't even know the meaning of. So I think it's really important to maybe, only because the conversation was a good 20-minute conversation and everything was just Spanish. But I just want to say, like, for me, like, I think it is, especially today with what's going on today, I think it is very important to get down to the difference between a U.S. citizen and a nationality. Me growing up, I was born here in the United States, that I never really thought that there was even a difference, or a difference between these two words. I never even thought about it. So I think, especially with today, with what's going on, I think it's really important to try to get down to the meaning of those two words and how it can benefit, many people, whether you were born in the United States or if you were not. I think it's a really important topic to go over, especially with everything that's going on today.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just trying to share a screen, and I agree, Selena. Again, coming from the same point for myself, I mean,
Yeah.
this wasn't an information that I was born into. This was information I personally found after I was just trying to seek more healing, but at the same time coming back from two tours in the military. I could see how there was a level of warfare that was still being played out on the people here in America, even though people couldn't perceive it just because there were certain different levels of uniforms or what was perceived authority. I could see how fundamentally this didn't make sense on a philosophical or even human level. So my mind made me have to like search and find answers to these questions that people could not give me in my immediate surroundings. And I'm the type of person that I don't really stop until I get there. And when I found the Moorish information, I'm not gonna lie, I had a huge aha moment. I still remember it. I remember realizing like, wow, this is the way how we are accepting what's happening to us, yet we're allowed to complain and protest about it and get no resolve, which already shows you, like Einstein said, you can't use the same thinking that got you into the problem to get out of it. So people keep doing these things and see that there's no resolution. You would figure they would try to find out what's the problem. And when I learned about the importance of status, which goes back to, well, you could have a mob of a bunch of people yelling, but if their status is an accepted corporate slave, then it's hard for you to even, again, as conscious people, let alone people that are corporate and plutocratic that don't care possibly for humanity, because that's what it seems like, to listen to, because these people are accepting a certain level of status that in all reality makes them like
Slaves.
they're accepting.
Because that's what I that was my shock moment when I realized that citizen actually meant slave, corporate slave.
And putting it in context, because you could be a citizen if you have your nationality, but the thing is, if you're a citizen of a nation that's doing things in positive law now, and that's the thing, like how the ancient indigenous would say that why they, when they dealt with the people of government and bureaucracy of what I don't like to use the term European a lot, because when you even deal with Europe, you're going to find out that there's Moors there too. And it creates this certain level of kind of like this racial divide that should not exist. But because we're dealing with people that their roots go back to the origins of these areas, but they were people that were trying to divide humanity or use humanity in a way to be able to gain more profit and advancement. And at the same time understanding, because of the way how I think, that this still serves a constructive purpose in humanity, because again, humanity is going to only allow what they can handle. And the thing is, humanity is handling a heavy level of stress and manipulation, but because we give up a lot of responsibility to these people and these beings, that at the end of the day, they're doing what they can with their low level of morality.
So look, Mark,
Blame
let me
them.
say this really quick, because you did mention that from you being in the military, it's kind of what kind of led you to try to research this information, because you were able to see how certain things weren't humane when you were in the military. So that's what led you to discover the Moors and that movement. But you see, most of us, we don't even realize it, that that this is actually important, especially if you are born in the United States. It's like for me, I was born in the United States, so automatically I am a US citizen, and that's it. So you really don't think about it, because you don't have to worry about it. So, but and then you see now today, what a lot of people are dealing with. You start to see like, wow, like, there's a lot of things, that I should have been knowing about.
Taught.
I never got to even think about the researching it. So, and I guess it's like I said, because I was born here, so I didn't really have to think about it. And then to even know that there is an actual difference with the title U.S. citizen and nationality, with those two words, that there is an actual difference. So, so yeah, you know, for a lot of us, we don't need to worry about this information until, I guess, until we need it.
And see, I've always been in conflict because I was born in Mexico. But I my parents were migrants, so it seemed like I changed schools every 3 months, and we would go to different states. And I remember very clearly when I was in Washington State and California and those places. I guess because they have more of the also like the natives over there in those areas, like the reserves and whatnot. Um, they would ask me like, "What is your status? Are you a citizen? What's your nationality?" And I would be like, is my nationality like Mexican? And they're like, no, Mexican is not a nationality. And I remember I would always be very, very confused. And I'm like, well, what do they mean nationality? But there's only like citizen, resident, which is the legal terms of the people who can be in the country of the United States legally. But then they were talking about nationality. So if U.S. citizen was an answer, was I a Mexican citizen? And but what did citizen mean, and what was nationality? That word nationality was something like digging in my brain constantly, like there was a joke or something going on that I hadn't been told. And that was keeping me from being able to advance. Like it was leaving me in a limbo. And that's what got me into doing this research and eventually finding Mark and Selena. But yeah, I'm with Selena. Nationality is a very big word. I guess we all have to start understanding so we can know the difference.
So nationality again. My big thing when I get asked the question, like, let me go back over here, right? This is why I had this here, right? So this is something I shared in the group, right? Asking the right question. This is something that in a lot of like scholarly groups where people are trying to like dial down on things, they will research or study this book because it is very crucial in helping you really kind of comprehend things. Can you guys see that clearly? It kind of seems blurry.
Yeah, no, I see it clearly. It's actually really good
Okay,
in the
perfect.
picture.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. So right here, it really boils down to, in a sense,
Make that face
really
when I'm
being
trying to
able to
learn.
understand things on a deeper level. But there's a paragraph here that I wanted to read to everybody. Okay,
Okay.
right here, these parts I would say really surmise what I just scrolled over. Again, I'll read real quick. The critical question will be shared with you one question at a time as a package. So they're gonna show us through the book. Basically, it's 11 questions you should ask yourself every time when you're analyzing a book. And the whole point of this is so you can more critically think in what you're analyzing, right? Because critical thinking consists of awareness of a set of interrelated critical questions plus the ability and the willingness to ask and answer them at appropriate times. So right here, I wanted to go over the sponge and panning for gold method. So a big thing is that we're going to just read two quick chapters that are going to surmise these 2 points. But the summary is a sponge person just absorbs everything that they think about, or what happens around them, and they use that to analyze the world. A panning for gold person takes all of that in, analyzes their way they think or who they are, and then looks for the tidbits that are going to get him to a point of more critical thinking or better understanding, where they can take value from what they're analyzing and create more of a dialogue with the author or the person that they're doing. So, like I said, the panning for gold and the sponge method, I could read it, but essentially that's the whole point. Now I'm going to scroll down to the 11 questions that we should be asking ourselves every time we analyze these things. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to these questions down here that you should be asking yourself every day, goes back to this right here. Now, and I left it on this page because I could have jumped straight to the point, but I also want to show you something that maybe a lot of people sometimes, because of the way that we're conditioned to think about certain groups and certain religions and stuff, we write off people, right? But again, the information I was looking for is the curriculum necessary for most educated people to know in this time, in this age, to be able to survive and thrive in reality. And if you see, it's provided to us by an Islamic group, which again is very
Mm,
interesting. You know what I mean? Because they're trying
yeah.
to give you more clarity to reality. Can you guys see this clearly? Let me get in.
And no, the letters are very tiny.
Is that better?
A little bit more. Ahí está. That's good. That there's good.
So again, it's the curriculum necessary and what we must know as an educated person. Now, this one I will read because I mean, I think this is good for moms to know too, not just people dealing in most of the stuff that I'm talking to you people again, or to everybody is, I don't mean to say you people, I apologize for that. To most people, it has to do with, again, more sovereignty and more self-responsibility. Now, if you want to apply it to become more part of the group and a collective, that's all on you. I mean, that's, some people don't want to, and that's going to be on them. But as we start moving more into this future, there's going to be importance to that. Again, this is by John Taylor Gatto. I posted his thing also on our group, and I posted it on the group so you guys could also see it and see the importance of it. Okay, so John Taylor Gatto tells us a few years back, one of the schools at Harvard, perhaps the School of Government, issued some advice to its students on planning a career in a new international economy it believed was arriving. It warned sharply that academic classes, professional credentials would count for less and less when measured against real world training. 10 qualities were offered as essential to successfully adapting to the rapidly changing world of work. See how many of those you think are regularly taught in school of your city or your state. Now, we're going to go through them real quick, and they're not very long. Number one is the ability to define a problems without a guide. Can you analyze a problem without anybody showing you or instructing you? Number two, the ability to ask hard questions which challenge prevailing assumptions. So that means whatever you think, you're actually supposed to challenge it and pose hard questions towards it to really see if it's worth your time and effort. Number three, the ability to work in teams without guidance. So the ability to do what we're doing right now, coming together, nobody told us, nobody planned it for us. Number four, the ability to work absolutely alone. Can you work on your own without anybody telling you what you need to be doing? Number five, the ability to persuade others that your course is the right one. Number six, the ability to discuss issues and techniques in public with an eye to reaching decisions about policy. So being able to talk about difficult things or different things that would affect us all as a community and creating change that would help us do better. Seven, the ability to conceptualize and recognize information into new patterns, taking the information you know and trying to arrange it in ways where you can analyze it or give it to people in a new way, aka something complicated, to be able to teach it to a child. Okay, so these are important skills. 8, the ability to pull what you need quickly from a mass of irrelevant information. This one is so important nowadays, especially with social media and the media in general, especially because now we have the news going on 24/7. Okay. 9, the ability to think inductively, deductively, and dialectically. All of these good words to investigate if you don't know the meaning of them in themselves. 10, the ability to attack a problem heuristically. Now, these were 10 skills that if you don't have, you're not going to make it in the future. Out of all these skills, doing what essentially is to like do the Moorish thing and everything hits them all. Now, I'm just going to read the closing out point because it's pretty good. Not the whole thing, though. You might be able to come up with a better list than Harvard did without surrendering any of these fundamentals idea. And yet, from where I sat, him, around schools for nearly 30 years, I don't think we teach any of these things as a matter of school policy.
Uh-huh.
This is
No,
why
I agree.
the education system, John Taylor Gatto. And that's why I shared what I put in the group to be able to give people more understanding on what you're really doing when you send your children to school and what you're really getting and what you need to do as a parent if you really
Yes.
supplement the rest of it, or completely take them out and do it all on your own. Again, these are different approaches. I'm not going to say one's better or worse than the other because there's things you're going to deal with in all of them. But as a community, we should definitely look at coming together and doing our own thing to be able to supplement these into our children or provide places where we could do these for them. And this is why I had these on here. Now going back to asking the right question and the 11 questions, I wanted to read those first to understand how those are important just to survive, and these are important to analyze your information. Now with these are asking the right question. The 11 questions are, what are the issues and the conclusions of what you're reading or absorbing? What are the reasons of why you're reading what you're reading or what you're absorbing? Which words or phrases are ambiguous, aka they don't give you a lot of detail or insight, like that's fake news. You're not with our community standards. So these types are very ambiguous, don't give you really much understanding or reasoning as to why. Okay. Number 4, what are the value conflicts and assumptions in what you're reading? What are the conflicts in what you're reading of what the person's trying to assume in conflict to what the other person is posing? Number 5, what are the descriptive assumptions? aka what words are they using to describe their opponent or whoever they're trying to make you think is assumptions, think what is not good or right. Number 6, are there any fallacies in the reasoning? Now this gets into then understanding a little bit about philosophies of fallacies, but fallacies are usually things that people use to be able to argue with people, but they're not really attacking the arguments in an educated way. They attack more like the character, or they try to make the person seem like they're not a good person, or which isn't attacking or really getting at the intellectual results of things. Number 7, how good is the evidence that you're getting? Number 8, are there any rival causes? It's important, or is it responsible for us to see the opposing contributions to this? Number 9, are there statistic deceptiveness to this? Are they throwing numbers out there to make you think there's something going on, but they're not really providing you the other side to really give you a full picture of things? Number 11, what reasonable conclusions are possible after you read or absorbed what you did? So these are things you should be doing nowadays, especially with the flooding of information that we get. So I just wanted to provide those, again, as tools for people to use, not even dealing with a whole nationality, which is something we're going to talk about in a bit, and the whole Moorish thing. You could be a U.S. citizen, a non-U.S. citizen, and these are tools that are just good for us to be able to just deal with things that we absorb on a daily basis on a more critical thinking level. So if you want, I could discuss now. I was using those again to be able to talk about now nationality and citizenship and how I was going to break it down and the reasonings as to why I was doing it. And I needed to mention, like I said, the tools that are going to help you make you successful, which were those, again, like I said, those 10 questions that we just read from John Taylor Gatto. which are going to help you just become a more successful person. And then also the 11 questions that you would have read if on the PDF that I provided, but is also available online. Anybody can find this, asking the right question. It is free. And again, these are some of the great things. Again, going back into, like I tell people, again, yes, the Moors went to sleep and gave the tools to the Masons and our European brothers to be able to keep governments alive, for us to be able to resurrect and bring humanity to higher levels of states. But the government was usurped and captured, even from our white hat Masonic brothers and other aspects. Again, like that's why I say, even with the dark aspect of the Luciferians and the Masons, they're doing the work that unfortunately humanity's not showing up for. So you can't hold them accountable or be upset at them for
So
doing those things.
I have to put it in the like most simpler words. I tell myself I'm gonna use the brain of a child when I tell you stuff back to see if I'm captando lo que me estás diciendo apropiadamente. So you're saying that basically the Moors were the more intellect people of society, knowledgeable with the understanding of the systems and stuff, right? So they created the structure of the systems and told the Masons, hey, bro, help me out. Let's work together. I got the ideas. You got the work. You do the work. I got the planning, right? And then the Masons, when they were doing that, they kind of said, well, you know what? We're doing all the work, even though he thought about everything. So screw him. We're just going to be in charge. And now captured the ones who created the system. And now we have to get control of the system back that
Well,
they
the
kind of
Masonic brothers were dealing with this since they got here, because they were being infiltrated by what we would call, again, like it
the
might be like a coverall, but I'm
Satanist.
using these terms. As you start going into history, you're gonna find them. This is what you're gonna come across: Jesuit and Zionist factions. They didn't want to see the Americas become independent, and they didn't want to see the marriage of the Moorish cultures and the European Christian cultures to end the wars that were plaguing humanity around the world and stagnating the advancement.
Okay, so the Moorish and the Masons were going to join hands together as a team to do the work. But the
This
Jesuits, Zionist groups infiltrated the Mason portion, which that's how they took control over the system that was created for the real inheritors of the land, Turtle Island.
It's not to say they took over it completely, but they overwhelmed it, and that's the thing. That's why what people perceive, they'll automatically write off as bad. And that's one of the
Right.
big thing that I try to tell people, is that you can't be using that level of thinking. There's grades to things, or degrees to things, or what you would call betters and worses. And that's one of the big things, because we're really like set because of an aspect of foundation of philosophy, and like, and you would say, because of aspects of Christian thinking, we either see things as good or as bad. We don't see, if they're not good, or they're not, if they're bad, then that's it. And we don't get that there's degrees to things, especially when you get to reality and how things really are. And if you're even going to want to move from one area to the other, you're not going to move in hyperspeed, you're going to move in degrees, because that's what's healthy. Like that, even when you deal with personal health and detoxing, you don't do things in aggressive ways. You do things in degrees. And this is one of the big things, again, why Masons and other people are hate on, because they have structure and they have degrees. But the issue is, because they take oaths to keep secrecies, but that's for their level of protection and their safety, because they obviously saw that there was a level of humanity that would pitchfork and fire people if they didn't understand things from the proper context, and that they could be riled up to do so. Again, it's nothing like we're not seeing today. So it goes back to, when people don't have fundamental concepts an understanding of the things that elevate and help humanity prop up really what we call civilization, then we allow whatever to happen. And we allow it to happen because, again, evolution allows it to happen, because guess what? We're animals anyways at the end of the day. And no one can be morally good, because the most morally good person was Yeshua, and he was a god, so no human can really be good. So we make excuses to be able to never step up to the plate, to be able to actually be more moral and better people, because at the end of the day, we'll turn and be like, well, he did it, and he's doing it. The big problem with this is we see people be successful at this, but this is part of the dangers of what the Maya told us. Is right now we're seeing the rulers of Xibalba amass the highest level of power and energy and wealth, but we're supposed to, as humanity, had to have mustered up some people that could have challenged that and gotten there in a more moral way, and therefore challenged and replaced that whole system. But it just goes back to, like I say, as humanity, we obviously haven't stepped up to the plate enough. And not trying to be real, but with humanity, but at the end of the day, this is something that I pose on myself, and which is why I strive to learn more and understand more before I apply it on humanity. But I can look socially and see that there is a deficit. There is a quality of lacking of certain level of understanding of civil and civic procedure that would really clarify why there isn't any results in what we do. So going back into when you analyze using these questions, nationality, and one thing with Red said with Moors, and why you go into history and they were considered intellects, because when you study the word Moor, you're going to find a lot of the roots of the word Mr., which is MR, because in Egyptian they didn't have really vowels, they would interchange, and you were initiated into those in the higher levels of the priestly class. And so when you had MR, that's where we get the Mr. And how do we use Mr.? That's a title we use for someone that teaches, or a teacher. So you already see there. But then if you start adding vowels, you add, let's say, the E into the MR. In between, you get mer. This is one of the old words for water. So then you start learning how mer and more have a lot to do with words about water and navigation. Now, when you start analyzing navigation in the ancient times, aka Moana and Maui, what does he have to do? He had to know how to measure the stars with his hand as a ruler. Now, this turns into the tools that you see the Masons that develop, that are physical, that are basically tools like the compass and the square that were used by the Moorish navigators and the ancient European brothers that were initiated into these tools of navigation to be able to move about the earth. And what I'm saying is that people that could navigate in ancient times understood the heavens and the stars, and also understood mathematics just by them saying that they were navigators. So this gets into why we're seeing Moors were the ancient scholars. And when you study who were the ancient Moor, this is the classification that the ancient aboriginal indigenous, or what you would call the remnants of the seven flames that were brought by the Atlatls, the ancient Atlanteans that survived the last cataclysm of the flood. And these were seeds of the tools that were used to elevate humanity and civilization. So you could see how there's people that don't want to see that, and could use the chaos of humanity as a way to be able to siphon luge, energy, wealth, and power from them. Going back into why Moors were navigators again, and intellects. And then going into navigator, national, nationality. So nationality is really knowledge of your connections to the human family and who you are and where you come from. While citizenship is you just showing that you're part of a government. You're not even telling that government if you have allegiance to it or not. Hence why they treat the citizenry the way they do.
So when we are stating or declaring our nationality as Moorish American, right? what we're basically saying is that we are those individuals who took the time to learn and understand the governing laws of the world we live in, so that we can better navigate in the world. So therefore, because we are aware, conscious, and able to be able to govern ourselves, now we have the permission to get out of basically the corral that they keep us in by calling us citizens. It's like now you're old enough or grown enough or knowledgeable enough to be out on your own. With this, Mark, would we be able to claim um, like a sanctuary or embassy or something where where we live would be like, because obviously there's nowhere another world we can go to, because this world has the government all over it, right? So by claiming our sovereignty, we would be like claiming freedom, but inside the place where it's all governed. So wouldn't we be able to start creating our own like bubble where it's not governed by them?
Own embassy. But again, there's critical infrastructure that's required for that, critical amounts of peoples and population that's needed. Because again, it's not going to give a lot of authenticity to a one individual system. So this gets into many of the things. And again, this is also why I understand what is done in the Americas and in different parts of the world, because they use it as a way to keep people we would think oppressed, but also from getting access or getting to certain levels of knowledge that in all reality, if they didn't have the right levels of morality or understanding, they would do more damage than good. As you see what's taking place when people do get a hold of this information, they use it as a way to be able to control and govern people in the negative way. And at the end of the day, you could say that this is good, because at the end of the day, maybe like they would tell themselves is they're doing it what's best for the overall aspect of humanity, or what they would say the commonwealth. And what they consider the commonwealth is the people that are making the wealth and making the money and providing the corporations and the work for the people, that at the end of the day, the people aren't doing. So they say, well, we're really the cream of the crop. So we should be able to dictate what happens or what doesn't happen, because at the end of the day, we're like kind of like the better part of society. So at the end of the day, because we are the better part of society, then we should be able to dictate what should kind of occur or not occur, because anyways, the lower classes don't have anything to say. And even if they had something to say, it wouldn't be intellectual. And that's the whole point. Once you get to these concepts and these deeper aspects of understanding, you're showing them that you're at depth and at a certain level of intellectual understanding, to not just be able to challenge, but to also be able to sit at the table and be able to do what you need to, as you do as adults in a nation.
¿Qué dice Selena? Excuse me.
No, I'm just listening to Mark, and just how important some things are that we as people, like I said, we don't really think about. We don't really think about this information, or if there even is a difference, or if there's anything else aside from what we've been taught, as children, by either our parents or by the school systems. Like, we really don't sit here to really think that there is no other meanings to things. And we just go on to just live life until we start to see, like, wait a second, some things don't make sense. Or also, is there any other ways, that we should know this information or not? So, I'm just, listening to Mark, explain, the differences of things, and how we as a people, some have been kind of like not taught the right way.
I feel we got duped. Like, when I start learning all this, I'll be honest, I feel like we got duped, because I feel like they probably explained all of this to the first individuals who were setting up all the stuff. And then like they stopped to ensure we forget, and our parents and our grandparents forgot. And so that ensured that we all got duped into signing up for stuff we didn't really understand.
Well, a
And
lot of things
also,
took place because of dual arrest, like you're saying. Like a lot of our grandparents and stuff, people were forced out of having or
uh-huh,
talking this knowledge, be it religiously or by law or by force. Yeah, different tactics were used.
yeah, and in the language. And so now, like, so how do we go backwards? Because so basically, what I see, right, is now we wake up in the society, right? And so there's like a few paths, right? There's the going forward path, staying where you're at, going forward, but that just gets you deeper into the hole where we started from. And then if you just stay still, well, I mean, it's like it's like making a choice not to advance the same, right?
Well,
So
that
the
goes
only,
the like what you were part saying in the beginning that I was gonna say, that that's part of what happens when you pave the road to hell with good intentions. That
mm-hmm,
at the end of the day, a lot of what ended up happening in America was with good intentions between the European brothers and the ancient Moors, but it ended up being usurped and stolen. That people got compromised, and at the end of the day, a lot of people just ended up doing what they could to survive. And a big part of it was because a lot of people weren't showing up, like as you can see here, like people, this is why a lot of Native American cultures, and when you try to talk about this with people that have like root understanding, they're like, we've never heard this term more or stuff like that. But it goes back to the reason they never heard about it is because not everybody chooses to go to university, let alone get a doctorate or a master's and stuff. So at the end of the day, a lot of the people in the past knew the stars, knew how to navigate, but they didn't know navigation like this. Like I said, those ancient seven sages that brought in light or the
mm-hmm.
understanding or the seeds to humanity after the ancient cultures fell, from when the heavens rained down waters for 40 days. You get what I'm saying? So it goes back to, at the end of the day, the road to hell was paved with good intentions, because at the end of the day, the people that are doing this to humanity in the negative way, you could look at it as people having to take responsibility and care of beings that don't want to step up to the plate and aren't really doing the most that they could do or providing enough for the shepherds, so they see you as a waste. You get what I'm saying? And to an extent, by people living up to it, it doesn't justify it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it makes it so that to them, they reason it away. Like, oh, no.
You
They're
know,
animals. They
and
don't
and
even
it's
know
obvious
how
that a
to
lot of
govern
this.
themselves.
It's obvious too that a lot of this information um, was not really told to us from a very, very, very long time. And I
This
think,
is what we call it, where we could say indoctrination. People don't get it.
yeah,
People think like they're indoctrinated after they get out of school. No, the indoctrination takes place since you're born, and they start torturing you by taking blood from your heels, spanking your nalgas, like all these different things, cutting the umbilical cord before they should. Like,
The shots, the vaccines that are
so
giving to
it gets into
babies, that's,
many different things that when you really analyze it, if we're a spiritual and evolved people, it doesn't really make sense, because you're the first aspects of that being born, you're like literally like torturing it, as much
mhm.
as you would say you mean well. But then what's the point of the sterile fields and of gloves and washing hands and good
It's
health, and then
making
we
it
have a
more
society that's so
disconnected and
advanced?
cold.
What was that?
It was making it more disconnected and cold because you come out of a warm, comfy, soft environment and you get thrown to like a sterile, cold, bright, hard, environment. That in itself is like, like plunge out into like ice water, you know, it's a shock to the,
It's funny you say that, which is why a lot of people have problem with ice water, because it's going to bring back traumas. You're going
yeah,
to bring back
right?
sensations of things that took place in your ancient genetic memory, and when they come up too much, we experience the symptoms for sometimes before we even get the memory. So if you can't deal with the symptoms, you're not going to be able to get the memory, let alone go past it.
So this is the importance, Mark, of why, as we're doing this sovereign path of learning, we need to work on like what Selena does, which is like the nutrition part, so we can be very healthy and keep our body hydrated and mineralized. And then also the spiritual part of it, because in the spiritual part of it is the being able to heal those traumas. That is, we're learning all this information, those traumas are going to be popping up, and they're not just our traumas, but this is going to also connect the traumas of like our parents and our grandparents and all of them before that were like duped. I'm going to use the word duped, they came into this system kind of in survival mode, not really understanding, but just following the masses to try to keep safe, which was the like you said, the road painted with good intentions that ended up being the road to hell, right? So this is where we heal the trauma as well as we're learning. So it should be like a unified thing that we're doing, where we're learning the law, we're learning our body, and we're learning like spiritual healing all at once, which to me is like it's a pattern that I see in my head. Like, oh man, we have to learn these three things, our three bodies, to be able to move along properly. Otherwise, if we go one body at a time, it would be very like cognitive dissonance, and you're in a constant battle between worlds that, consciously, and it'll be much harder, right? So we have to take like the step to the three phases, but the one little step in the three parts, instead of like big steps, like three little step, but in the three planes, so we start understanding, and then the three planes again, another little step. Okay, so we can heal. And
I say the Moorish movement is a divine movement because it moves in that way.
wow, see, and then you divine the Trinity.
Well, and that gets into like deeper aspects of where the Trinity actually really does come from, and Pater and Ptah, and who really Ptah was from Egypt, who really Quetzalcoatl. It gets into a deeper part of history that to me it's good storytelling and everything, but it's not going to resolve our social
Our
status,
issues, right?
situation. And that's why Noble Drew Ali, who was the one that brought a lot of this information by resurrecting it, who was a Cherokee out of South Carolina, and was actually a trapeze artist with the circus that ended up in Europe running in the mystic circles, that ended up then getting referred to the Egyptian mystery school system or the Commission school systems, that then ended up being told that he was a prophet and an angel that needed to go back to America to awaken the ancient Aboriginal indigenous beings of the Americas, of who they truly were and their connection to the roots in the ancient family. Which is why when he gets over here, he starts then setting up a lot of this stuff, and he goes and talks to Woodrow Wilson, and I believe North or South Carolina, where Woodrow Wilson was governor, and told him that he was here to awaken the ancient Moors, the sleeping giants. And it's funny because this was, I think, 1911, 1912. And shortly after, he tells this to the bankers because he was one of the informants, one of the Jesuits school taught. So then he ends up telling the bankers, and the bankers crash the economy. And that's when you get the 1914 Great Depression. This is part of what's understood.
So the 1914 Great Depression was our people trying to rebalance the balance.
Well, because this is also part of what they had been doing to fight the people that are on the European side, that were trying to establish the greenbacks and money that was actually lawful, which is why they were shot Abraham Lincoln, the whole thing with Andrew Jackson, and that whole deal. But when they saw the Moors also waking up, and you have a European faction of brothers, what again is called freedmen's. These are the freedmen's, like Freedmen's Bureau. You start dealing with what you would call plenipotentiaries and these types of beings, but they're working within a system that has been kind of hollowed out and corrupted, trying to rebuild it, which is us as Moors. We're trying to resurrect what was already left behind and hasn't been corrupted.
I see.
The difference. That's why a lot of the Freedmen's brothers come and speak and hang with the Moors, because they know that their work is still a lot deeper and a lot more complex because of the level of power and wealth that has been created by negative factions within their system, let alone technology that's being kept and suppressed. That gets into a whole nother one.
So the best thing to do is be able to understand our history, how it's connected with the law, so we can use the same law as a tool to declare, because we don't need the law in itself. We need to have the understanding of the law so we can declare ourselves sovereign. That means you have the adequate knowledge to be your free self,
Well, because
right?
it goes back to why I started with analyzing questions. In reality, sovereign means gold. Sovereign means a piece of gold. But a person that was sovereign was he who could pay his debt or what he got in gold. So mostly all the ancient
Mm.
Americas were what? They were sovereigns because guess what Columbus and all them did to the women? Because our ancient culture would shower the women with gold and they would make the gold so it didn't come off. They would cut the ancient Moors' heads off to take the gold. They write about it themselves. So the
So,
ancient peoples of the Americas were sovereigns because they had what? They had a wealthy Europeans didn't. So therefore they had a status that the Europeans didn't even possess because of the serfdom from the Christendom that they were under. Not trying to belittle Christianity, but unfortunately it was
no,
usurped.
we're being honest. Like, we have to speak it how it is,
Yeah,
right?
it's used as a tool to oppress and keep people under a certain level of servitude, which is why then the Pilgrims and the Puritans leave England and Germany trying to fund and create their own colonies. But you also had people over here that were called pirates, but they're also called privateers. Privateers were people that got contracts from the royalty to be able to rob the Spanish galleons and the Moors over here to be able to give up
But bounty hunters.
exactly, aka
And see, this brings me now, like, all of a sudden to the present, and says,
exactly.
hey, don't we have bounty hunters being contracted by the government to take those individuals who are not registered as corporate property, and they're being disappeared?
Again, and
Wow.
you you don't need to we don't even need to speak it directly because when you start understanding fundamentals you see it for what it is, and you don't even need to say things that are triggering or that will get you banned or anything, because as an intellectual person you should be able to give the same message without causing ruckus or waves. But you're completely
But
right.
But let's be honest, like, we don't have a lot of our people because we've been robbed from our culture. We've been robbed from our education. We've been literally indoctrinated. Our memories have been erased. We've been separated from our parents and grandparents. So I honestly believe that the level of ignorance that we're at is not because of our own fault, but it's how we were pushed to not know. It's like Cinderella, and the stepmother comes and pushes Cinderella out, gives all the info to the stepsisters, leaving Cinderella out. That being that Cinderella is the true inheritor of the land. And I feel that this moment of truth where we're at right now, we do have to like, I appreciate you because you have this ability to understand the very high level of it. I have the ability to kind of like translate it into the most basic form in Spanish so that our people can receive the message, because sometimes we don't understand the parables since we've been pulled away too far from the way we used to speak before.
Yeah. No, it's funny you said the Cinderella thing because the movie I posted, the trailers, that's like a modern version of Cinderella, but way more in depth. Really telling you like I said, the ramifications of how things deal in a more intergalactic and major way when one actually declares their nationality and sovereignty, because it's something your ancestors, because it's basically acknowledging but not just verbally on aka on a physical plane level, because what we do is basically on just the elements of air, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But when you put it into writing, you're dealing with water because of the ink, you're dealing with the earth, you're dealing with fire because of the thought, like it's all the elements bled down into one rather than just like words that you're uttering. Because at the end of the day, this was the whole point of putting hands on cave walls and stuff, was hey, we were here, and that's time and present and things. And going back into one thing that you were saying with the Cinderella and not knowing our history, the reason I brought this up, this is a book called The Stolen Continents, 500 Years of Conquest and Resistance in the Americas, which is a book that's basically a history, but through the Native Americans' eyes. And I wanted to read a part out of here, which is, mind you, this is a scholar that you would say is like a European brother that's trying to tell the people the truth, but he's being a scholar about it. You get what I'm saying? The people are the ones that need to go a little further, because that's the thing with the people. They want everybody to risk their neck and get their heads chopped off for trying to tell them. And at the end of the day, they don't want to show up.
Aquí estoy yo de cabezón en Big Mouth.
And that's the thing. Like, some people are smarter than that. They're like, hey, I want to tell the people, but I'm not going to be a martyr, because at the end of the day, they're not going to show up for me. Who's going to show up for me is the prostitute, Mary Magdalene, and my mom.
I know.
That's who's going to show up for me. The people got written off everywhere. We're all the pure, everybody. Oh, even Thomas still. And let me put a finger in that wound.
Wow.
But again, I just
Go
want to
ahead.
read this quick paragraph. It's in the author's notes. It said, "How I loathe the term Indian." Let me go like this. How I loathe the term Indian. Indian is a term used to sell things: souvenirs, cigars, cigarettes, gasoline, cars. Indian is a figment of the white man's imagination. Leonore Keating Tobias, Ojibwa native, 1990. Any book about the Americas is fraught with the problem of terminology until 1507, when the name was first appeared on maps. There was no America. There was no American Indians. The idea that America might be a part of Asia wasn't even scotched until 1522, when the survivors of Magellan's fleet returned. The word Indian merely commemorated Columbus' mistake. America has since become established as a name for an entire so-called New World, and confusingly, for its dominant nation, we are left with the problem of what to call its peoples. In 1492, Europeans seldom used the term European. They defined themselves by their nations and ethnic groups, or as Christians. Ancient Americans did the same things, calling themselves Mexican, Maya, Tlaxcala, and so forth. In English, these Aboriginal people and their descendants should collectively be called Americans, just as the people of Asia are Asians. The America is not a native word, is beside the point. Neither is Asian. This was indeed the primary usage until the 18th century, when the British settlers became Americans, and the way the South of African Dutch became Africans. So now those same Americans are telling you you're not an American.
Uh-huh.
And the people believe it because they challenge nothing. And you think they're going to tell you no when they're playing cops and robbers, and you're like, you got me.
Look, I go on TikTok, and I've gone into a few lives with people from the United States, and it's very funny. But most people in the United States think that America is the 50 states. They don't understand that America is a continent. Even some people in Mexico and other countries now don't understand that America is the whole South and North continent.
All the way to Canada. Es el Gran Aknoak. El Gran Aknoak, lo que quiere decir Aknoak en Nahuatl is island. So it's the great island. El Gran Aknoak. Why? Because our ancestors, they came into, the way that they'll even tell you, they came into this country through a lot. You don't think that they knew it was an island? They hadn't gone around the whole thing. No, they could ride canoes and circumcise the stars and do all these pyramids, but they couldn't make a canoe and travel around it, or a boat. This was already been proven. You can watch the movie Kon-Tiki, where a man, which is, I believe, from Swedish descent, makes a boat just like the Egyptians were able to make, and rides the currents, doesn't even use a sail just uses the currents that exist and ends up in Brazil. So it goes back to the understanding that people think, and let alone that what you see now is the Atlantic Ocean didn't used to be the Atlantic Ocean before Atlantis fell. It used to be lakes and a larger river. But it gets into, this is before the waters fell from the heavens, which again, theorized by astronomers and even exopolitics people will tell you that it was from a planet or a moon that went around an ancient planet that goes around the solar system that was mainly water. That's why there's certain beings or certain entities that don't seem like they're from this planet, aka the octopus. You can look up the documentaries in the books on how the octopus, when you look at it, must have time traveled here or came here interdimensionally or something, because the way that it's designed and what it essentially is does not make sense in our evolutionary thinking.
Wow.
But
So does it?
things about what Earth really is and what's going on and stuff. But coming back down, to nationality and citizen, if you guys can see here, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to read it and what a citizen really is. Can you read it to us, Red?
And it's too small.
Okay, let me make it bigger.
Yeah.
So I'll read it.
Yeah, you read it because I was.
Bigger, but
It's because it's.
Let me see.
The size you had, it was good because
Okay.
se miraba.
Okay. So a citizen, and this is a hierarchy of law. That's basically what this is. You can find this online if you want. I'll share it on the group later. I shared it several times. I've explained this to people, and especially when people ask me like, "Oh, do you vote?" And I always ask them back, "Do you know what a citizen is?" And the reason I ask that, because if you knew what a citizen is, even you as a leader of a country and a nation, even if you're empathetic or not, you'll learn after this why you wouldn't let a citizen truly vote. A citizen, a slave of the corporation to which it pledges, does not have rights, only has privileges which are given to it by the corporation to which it pledges. Did anyone hear government there? So it goes back to when someone asks me, do you vote? I tell them, do you know what citizen is? And the reason, like I said, that I say that is because if they know a citizen is a corporate slave that has no
So
right.
technically, citizens should not be able to vote.
No,
So
because they're
technically,
you're
the,
saying, I'm a dumbass. Can you let me vote? Hold up. Should I? Because you just told me you're not very bright. Sorry for using the term very negatively, but it's just what came up. But
no, but let's. I feel like we shouldn't be upset if we're a group of adults, and I like to have more of a study session and be relaxed about it. We're not in a university. We're like we're a humbled group of individuals trying.
I'm not very educated or very
Let's just say this, like, because it's not. Let's just say that the universities we have today are not what were the universities that were created back in the day. Definitely not. So this is a more, yeah, this is like, I'm gonna tell you how to think. The other ones was like critical thinking, like think out of the box. Here they put you in the box, so you don't realize that being a citizen, you're a corporate slave. They shouldn't have the rights to vote, and if that you basically are pledging your alliance to those who are oppressing you, the real inhabitants of the land.
Yes, so this gets into the ancient schools, and the reason I brought this up, because this is Rudolph R. Windsor, which is, you're gonna see, like I said, as you can see here, these are scholars that have been like accepted throughout the world. He's a black Jew, and what is he writing about? Where are we at over here? From Babylon to Timbuktu. Timbuktu, if anybody knows, is one of the first universities and colleges established, which was actually mirrored after, who was the first person to start college? An Islamic woman, after her dad left her wealth.
Wow.
She started the first university. which became, I believe, what is now a university in West Africa. And that's where then these universities got taken into Europe and then,
So wait, this lady established a university in West Africa how long ago?
what? Let me pull it up right now for you.
See, because this is just thought after thought. So just the week, because I feel that it's very important that we speak about how we've been indoctrinated constantly.
The first university founded by a woman was the University of Karawi. Excuse me, I'm gonna get this. Karawiyini. The University of Al Karawiyini in Fez, Morocco, established in 859 AD by Fatima al-Fahari. She was
859 AD.
yes. She was a Muslim woman who founded the institution, which is still in operation today and is recognized by the Guinness World Book as the oldest existing continually operating educational institution in the world.
And this is where I say, but if you ask anybody in the Americas, they'll tell you Africa is a poor continent where children are full of parasites and barely drinking water.
Mind you, check
But
this out, Red. Check this out. You know where they're testing the first flying taxis right now?
is that the first like flying car?
Yep.
Like for personal usage?
Yep. You know where they're doing it?
Africa. Yeah, and
You know,
I saw that.
and as this year
And
they did it. Mind you, and what are they having this year? They're having an African summit in South America. Or sorry, in South Africa. Sorry, in South America.
and see, this is so weird because
It
when
is
we
South
start
America,
think
but that's another one.
we will start thinking like it's like in the movies they're telling us the truth that we don't know, because in the movie Black Panther they tell you that Africa was actually a continent where they were very advanced in technology and science and finances and all this stuff. And another interesting fact, Elon Musk is African.
Nah, keep talking.
That he's literally this educated guy, even though he's white, from Africa, again, cutting that sense that Africa is black when in reality, black means white. So what is being said is that Elon was a white kid, a black kid that went to African school, learned the knowledge, comes to the United States, and as a philanthropist starts taking control, because most of the people on this side are not aware of what's actually going on the other side of the world,
No, yeah, there's a lot
especially
of
in Africa.
geopolitics. There's a lot of geopolitics that I can make people aware of and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's honestly irrelevant if we can't even get
That's Africa.
foundational aspects. You know what I mean? Like it's irrelevant because we're just gonna end up adding more to the problem. And going back into like right here on why, like I said, citizen and would you let them vote? But if you look on
No.
here, you end up looking, if you pay attention, that there's a word sovereign up here. And the sovereign, again, because this is something we mentioned, right? And it's, mind you, above citizen. Let me tell you how many: one, two, three, four, five, six. It's the seventh one up, right? So you have citizens, then you have police and corporations and the agents
Uh,
above citizens. Now
and
you
in
see
the federal,
they can do what they do.
the cops
In
and
the
the,
hierarchy, they're above you.
uh-huh.
How can you tell someone above you to do what you're saying?
Hmm.
You can't. It's like telling your older brother to do what you're saying, but yeah, what's he
So,
gonna give you noogies?
and I'm sorry, and I know that you're gonna tell me like we shouldn't probably put it that way, but I'm sorry, I have to be the one with the tongue to say. So basically, police officers are not here to protect the citizens
Well,
at
remember,
all.
it's again using the first that we use, just analyzing the word police. It's a French word for policy. Is that laws?
No.
No,
So
wait.
it's a,
People that actually support law and constitution are peace officers. Because what are they trying to do?
establish peace.
to the matters. Because Europe,
de-escalate conflict.
what was the European brothers and the Moors did here, we were saying?
They were trying to de-escalate conflict.
And
And
start
it
coming
seems
together to create what? Peace.
and
Peace. Yeah.
peace, yeah, just peace.
Yeah.
Like a bigger brotherhood,
Yeah, there you go. Brotherhood. Why? Because
or
we're having brotherhood. We can
familyhood.
grow together as humanity and truly elevate to be able to protect ourselves if another flood comes, if another pole reversal comes, if another cataclysm comes. Let alone
Which we know they will, because we live on a timed seasonal planet, not just like the yearly seasons, but like the fire that we were saying, the 52 years of like the fire flame that flares up to create a change. So then you go back because you were telling us how many steps higher is the sovereign from the citizen.
Oh, I was just gonna pull up some videos dealing with things that you're talking about, but I won't go down that route. You know, what I mean, we'll come back.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but it's just so that people can understand how much in depth and how that the reason we're grabbing this line is because it's more of the balance line from where all the different mystical metamorphosis of understanding is expands from,
What
because
goes
this
into
law
Elon
part
Musk
is like the
even?
3D, huh?
It goes into Elon Musk and why he wants to go to
Mm-hmm.
Mars and who his mom is and what they're into
Right.
and what they do. And it's not to say that they shouldn't do it or stuff, but it's usually in a sense somewhat in opposition of what we want, because we're beings that cherish more life and want more life
Right.
and value life over, say, technology or oppression,
Or
and there's
profit.
beings that value more technology than life and see technology as a means to be able to advance further, aka I'm willing to torture some animals to be able to come up with something that'll help us more. But it's like, yo, like, but you're doing a lot of wrong to do one supposed good thing,
Yeah.
and it's not even that good. But again, not trying to
Integrity, morals,
scientific
honorability,
progress and stuff like that. I understand experimentation is needed, but what I'm telling you is a certain level of moral
awareness.
absence or dulling is needed to be able to do those things. And
So what's the highest?
going into what you were saying, like the different prerogatives that are going on that we could get into, dealing in topics that would touch exopolitics, parapsychology, history, spirituality, and its relation to this. But if I were going to tell someone where to start and the prioritization scale, the way they have it here, showing you from priorities, from where did the power in law derive to the lowest one that derives power. Like I said, citizen being the lowest. The only thing he could do is tell the animals what to do. So again, now we get to sovereign, which was 7 steps above. The one right above citizen, like we were saying, where we were at, is police, corporations, and agents. Above them are federal codes. Above them are corporations, which are dead, fictitious entities that operate under laws of the Constitution developed by the sovereigns, does not have the ability to create laws, can only create codes, statutes, and ordinances. Goes for the U.S. corporation, which is why they always close the government and then have a bailout, because that's all they can do. They are not sovereign. They cannot create sovereign or
Diaper
what you
change. Come on.
call real money, because money is not what you get paid at work. But that gets into other lessons. Now, above the corporations are constitutions. Now, a constitution, like we said, is really a contract between sovereigns. As it says here, constitutions are laws created by sovereigns that govern corporations created by the sovereign.
So what I'm understanding, because I tell people, yo estoy bien tonta. A mí no me miren como la inteligente. Yo estoy bien tonta y yo por eso voy aprendiendo despacito. So you're telling me that somewhere out there, there's a group of sovereign individuals who make laws and create the system, and then they live comfortable, and then they have a structure of people, corporations, uh, treaties, policies, and personas filling these positions to execute the job. But in essence, they don't even know if how it's being handled down the line. The last people on the line are being benefited from it or not. Or do you think that they're aware?
You got to remember, whenever you hear the word democracy, you're dealing with the corporation. So the
Okay.
republic hasn't really truly been established in a long time, and that's what you get into with David Wynn Miller and these different people that do that. I'll share the documentary on there that deals with international law and the book by Emer Vattel dealing in international law, which gave the foundation to the structure of the Constitution and the philosophy that the founding fathers, aka sovereigns, that were acknowledged by the original sovereign, the Moors, that allowed them to be sovereign, which is why they would dress up in Native American uniforms, aka Moorish, not really Native American, that's a created word to be able to control people. But just to give people context, because they're used to in history hearing that term, to be able to give a certain picture, how they acknowledge what you would call the European brothers, why they dressed up in Native American outfits and dumped the Boston Tea Party over, because by doing that, they were acknowledging their ancestry, giving them back their sovereignty without it being acknowledged by the kings and queens. Because back in the day, if you were part of the European structure of government, you didn't get to any position unless the king or queen told you. The only people where scholarship was something that was rewarded and was your passport to be able to climb the structure of society was in the Islamic cultures. Because even apart
Okay.
from that, in most of the ecclesiastic cultures, aka the religious cultures, you still kind of had to go through a system. Even if you were more advanced, they wouldn't let you go so high until you gain certain things. This is one of the problems Terence McKenna had when he started going to go learn from the Buddhists and the different religious circles, because he did get into meditation and that whole thing in a while, which is why he was so big into ethnogens and plant medicine, because of its ability to be able to rock that structure. But at the same time, he understood that there's a responsibility and thought process that's needed to be able to deal with all this. Going back to why this information too would also benefit you in different things like that. So this gets into, again, like I say, when you hear democracy and what you see as government now is not above corporation. It's not something that's operating constitutionally, yet the people are petitioning to this corporation for it to operate constitutionally. Now, the thing that people need to understand is that the corporation needs to obey the Constitution, because then it can't operate lawfully under the government without doing so. So in order for them to do that, they have to confuse the people and get you to accept a position and a status that if you knew better, you would not take. Because by you doing that, you allow them then to use you as a body politics or as a population to be able to do what they need for the commonwealth, which is basically their corporate factions. They're lobbyists.
Right there. Sorry. I
No,
fell
you're
off.
gonna get you out of the
I was
other
like,
one.
I fell off. I pressed something wrong button. Um, so what we're gonna do is we're learning the law. We're learning where we come from in the law. We're learning the proper etymology of the word so we can better understand the contract we're basically put into, so
That
that
creates
we can acquire the proper information on how to walk as sovereign beings, so that we can therefore start establishing our embassies or our sanctuaries to kind of like anchor back the old ways.
just to give more like structure to what you're saying, because everything you're saying is right, but just to give it like the whole step by step, the plan would be to set up a study group, that study group then would become the body politics of the area, when you have usually about 12 people that can fill the different positions like treasury, PR, the governor, if you would, the assistant governor of the political body, the different parts that are needed to be able to actually operate as what you're saying, then that turns into a body politics that aligns itself with the structure of the state body politics, which would be with the grand governor of Texas, which I'm in communication with, which then would contact with the rest of the state body politics across the nation, which is what we're doing. Then that state body politics of nations has a meeting coming together, acknowledging and establishing the acknowledgement of the nation coming together, having a population with the body, with the structure, which then can be petitioned to the UN to be acknowledged, because then
Right.
you're no longer just some individual in some place doing something.
Mark, would this be like the King Ranch here in Texas? Because the King Ranch is the size of Maryland and it's federally protected. And when you look at it through like GPS from like the sky view and stuff, it's real funny because it tells you that where the King Ranch is, it'll tell you King Ranch Nation. So it's not a ranch, it's like technically a sanctuary nation of
Be like
sovereign.
what you would know as a county. A county is basically different townships and different cities, which are basically, again, body politics. This is the part where people, cities are basically, was a McAllen, was a family that got together, they had a land grant, invited other families to become part of their land grant. They set up a trust and a committee. That committee then decided, set ordinance, laws,
Oh
and
my God.
state in agreement with the county and then in agreement with the nation. But since all
This
of that captured and put under a corporate aspect, all of these counties and stuff are honestly operating under corporate fiction status. But they make you think that they're real. That's why when you see their emblems and they say founded the same way Hollister does.
So, oh my God. And see, because I've been involved when I was doing my protesting against the shots and all this, that I got into politics, I was hearing a lot of, oh, like this county is just like ruled by so and so family, and this other county is just ruled by so and so family. So technically, what they're saying is those were the families that back then understood this situation and established those cities that are in control, getting all the government funding that is taken out of like the trust funds that were established under our names, but they're now benefiting from all these rules that they're putting with like selling us like liberties, like licenses and taxation and all this.
Yes. So, and again, there's more clarity and even more detail. And if some people feel like something that I said wasn't right and they would want to enter, they can't. From my research and my investigation, and you start finding out this is essentially what took place. And all of this was allowed to happen because Inter Terra Divina and the Inquisition, as far as coming after the indigenous through a discovery and conquest to be able to claim their land and set them up under these corporate factions. Again, being set up under corporate factions because the government itself did not want to operate under true sovereign principles the way that it had originally been established, because in all reality, then they would have to educate and bring the people up to speed. Instead, they turned it into a corporation or a boat where they could just take everybody and do what they want when they need, unless people were actually educated or informed or were part of the club.
Hence the maritime law used in courts, which is the law of the sea. And this is where you say keeping everybody in boats, because now you're a vessel lost at sea, which they can capture at any time and
And
take
your bounty,
over,
your
like
bounty,
pirates on land.
privateers. And that's where really the word pirate comes from. But you got to understand, they were doing it because the Moors had been doing it to the Europeans for a long time. And that's why the Europeans had treaties with the Moors, showing you the true power of the ancient Moorish culture. This gets into more detail of showing you of what we're speaking about, of the historic context of the whole Moors and being educators and navigators and stuff.
And this is also where they say that the slave, what was slave known as, it didn't start in the Americas. It actually started between Europe and Africa back in the day, which was founded in or created from Africa because they are the ones who started selling their own people at one point.
The Europeans were selling, like again, they were selling their white women to the Moors. This is why the harems, the Moors started getting more white, and then this led to problems within the. This ended up causing big problems and dramas where the whole Hamlet stories and stuff sheds also light into what you would call like the Islamic world. You get what I'm saying? But the thing is, what the Islamic people were trying to bring to Europe would have benefited more Europe because they were trying to take them out of serfdom. You're gonna say, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say neither one was better or worse because by the same faction, by the Christians being the way that they were, the Vatican being so oppressive and hard on the people, they ended up giving rise to what ended up becoming the common law system that the Europeans brought, which ended up creating foundation for people to be able to then start using what would be similar to an Islamic culture as law as the divinity of your rights.
Which these were like the Protestants. The Protestants, they were against the church.
Were working good with the Moors and stuff, but then other groups would come in and not be good. And then what would happen is like what we do now, you would throw people into boxes like where they're all bad and all these natives are bad because they attack these, like where then confusion became a big thing. And you got to take into account back in the day, communication wasn't the way it is now. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of bloodshedding took place, a lot of things that weren't positive to humanity or the advancement of humanity. At the end of the day, we need to get to a point where we can then start elevating and like bringing these things forward and no longer holding grudges or doing things that are honestly just stagnating us. Because in all reality, it's like that Buddhist kind of proverb where if you hold on to a problem long enough, it's like holding on to a cup of water. Even though a cup of water might not be heavy, if you hold on to it all day, it's not going to be easy to hold on to it, especially you hold on to it your whole life. You get what I'm saying? So these are the things where again, like I usually tell Selena, we need to break the cycle. Somebody needs to break the cycle. And that's where, again, being intellectual and being a smart person then allows you to be able to do this because you can remove the emotion of things and cut straight to the things you need to and recover the processes or the things needed to be able to get you to a better state. Not just yourself, but those around you, because that is a reflection of yourself, at least the way I think philosophically, because I do share a lot of philosophy, like with a lot of ancient cultures, and particularly in that aspect with the Maya, as far as in Lakesh, which means you're another me.
What's good for you is good for me. Kind
So
of mentality.
yeah, I feel like if there's people oppressed or being treated wrong somewhere in the world and we're not doing something about it, then it's like we're allowing a seed or a vine to grow that eventually might reach across a whole nother area. So
And
again,
I think we're there. We're there where it's reaching across already. And we're those of us who have been aware or who have like and I'm gonna be honest, went through like this rough awakening, are able to see it at the beginning stages. Like we are seeing like the pimples barely trying to show, but we already know it's gonna pop and it's gonna be full of
for
juice.
us to have been seeing for a while, things are getting to a boiling point, which is why the information is becoming more critical and more crucial, especially with certain digital means of concentration camps or reservation camps or ways
The
of
laws
control.
are there. We already have, and they're not concentration camps. They're called wellness camps. And like here in the United States, there was a law or a policy passed. It says homelessness, mental illness, and addiction are illegal within the law. And those people can be taken by third party entities or policemen and be placed in wellness camps so that they can work off their wellness to hopefully get them to a better state before letting them go back into the general population. But when you're looking at it, you understand those are concentration camps, and those are individuals are basically the ones who are opposing or were more against compliance of new policy stated because they feel that they're being imprisoned, even though they might not understand it or have the ability to express it. Their sixth sense, that survival mode thing kind of makes them act this way because they feel it, even though they don't know what it is.
No, yeah. This is one of the big things that I always tell people around me is that the way you treat your children or those weak in your society, like the elderly or homeless, says a lot of what your real intentions are for humans. Because if you treat those people like numbers or like they're not valuable, then you're not really about human life. You're really about the workforce. And if you're only
Mm-hmm.
about the workforce, then you're only about profit. And if you're only about profit, then you don't really care about human life.
People. Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, if the people that show you that this is mainly what they're focused on, and you expect them to be empathetic or treat life better, it's going to be a hard road or a hard realization. I feel for those individuals to get there. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying I feel like it would be more effort or better effort for me to give towards people that do have empathy, do want to come together and
Mm-hmm.
understand the value of these individuals, of the children and the elderly, because as children, that's the future, and as your elderly, that's your wisdom. You know, and there's a Japanese saying or myth or legend, because there's a culture where when the elderly used to be seen as bad, right? So they would take the elderly after a certain age and they would just like commit
And here comes why we have nursing homes nowadays, and how a
so
lot
what
of
they would do is
Europeans.
they would do euthanasia. They would do like, oh, you're no longer used for society, we get rid of you. So then there was this one son that he was real close to his dad, so instead of doing that, he took him off to the forest and built him a little home and everything, and he would take him food and he would go have talk. So after a few years, this guy started getting more popular in the community. He started growing, he started being more successful, he started getting wealth, he became known, the king was getting. And they finally asked him, like, hey man, like, so how did you like really like able to achieve all this and did it? He's like, well, I just never actually killed my dad, and I've been getting
Wow.
teachings from him this whole time.
Wow. And there it tells you why they go after our elderly, our elders, because they don't want the real teachings, which is the living word, which to me is this what we're doing, talking about the real information. This is the living word. The dead word is what you read from the Bible or what you get indoctrinated. You can't see between the lines. But I feel that we are preaching right now as prophets, the living word, which is the true knowledge of what's going to give us the ability to be able to build and anchor the new world for future generations.
Well,
But
yeah,
in order,
this is part of the keys of why I personally like lock down on this information. And really, if it's something that I try to talk about with people, it is this, because I understand the priority level in being able to carry out exactly what you said. But most people want to carry out what you said without understanding the fundamental
the law,
concepts or ways of doing it. And that's the thing. In reality, if you look at the way our European brothers have done it, they're showing you how to do it. They're showing you the reverse way to do things. So this is where we're at. So we do what they did in reverse to get back to
hmm
where we need to be. And
right?
that's the thing where we fail to understand, because what we want to do is just jump from this path to the next path. And by doing that, like it's like trying to move a tree. You know how much you're gonna need to dig up root, at least if you want the tree to stay alive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The work
And
that it takes.
it's
And so,
funny how you say we have to engineer it in reverse, because when you learn about the government, the US government, everything that they've been doing within science, it's like they've been re-engineering things in reverse from something that they don't understand how it was done. So in actuality, they're trying to get back to our information, our natural information,
well,
and
the way
it's more
that I see it,
difficult to crack the code.
no,
And I
yeah,
feel,
I agree with you. I was gonna say the way that I see it, it's kind of like what they're doing is they're trying to take care of a bunch of people that don't want to learn and understand. So they're doing what they can, but they themselves are part of the same group, so they don't want to do what they need to do to it. So you have a lot of people that don't truly want to be doing what they're doing, but they have to do it because it's a job. And they're like, man, if I crack a few eggs along the way, like Ace Ventura did delivering that package on the opening scene, then at least I got the package there, because at the end of the day, I'm in it for what I want to get. And that
mhm,
attitude really doesn't lead us to have a very efficient and effective and good system. So what
mhm.
you realize is people need to take more responsibility personally if we want to create better systems collectively.
And it's really upsetting because what? Um, understanding that children, when they're little, they're geniuses, and as they're getting older with trauma, with indoctrination, with religious beliefs and whatnot, it's shown that their level of IQ starts decreasing. So they start becoming more dull versus more smart because they're not being nurtured. That genius part of them is not being nurtured, right? But I recall that in schools, they would try to figure out the kids that had the ability to crack codes and information. And I'm thinking it's because they needed the help to crack the codes of the information that they were taking from our people to reverse engineer it to use it for their benefit, leaving us out of the loop.
Yeah, and this is totally correct. I mean, a lot. We could go into more detail. I mean, we're kind of getting already to the last 5 minutes of the.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't. I didn't see anybody post any questions. There were several people supposedly wanted us to do this so that they could ask questions and stuff. And it's like I said, unfortunately, people don't really grasp the importance and the stuff of this information. Personally, for me, I don't really need to get together with groups and stuff. I'm already doing and stuff for my family and putting things in place to be able to protect and stuff like that. I'm doing it because I know it's a service that needs to be done because of the way this movement is and the way its divinity is. If I don't do it, it's kind of like creation will come down on me for not providing avenues
Right.
and stuff to people to have. But I've honestly noticed that people don't really honestly care or understand that it's important. It's like I tell them at work, I think people are going to still need to experience more chaos, more weirdness. Like if things aren't enough yet, it's going to get more because it's needed to be able to, like an alarm clock, shock humanity to wake up to what's really needed and what is really valuable to be able to move forward. If they're going to, if not, we're going to be moved forward by the forces and the energies that are doing it by force.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know me, I'm like on the same path, learning every day, putting more puzzles to the story. I do understand that we need more people who want to be actually involved so that we can establish at least a township, which would benefit all of us because we would be having the ability to acquire a massive amount of land
But it,
and work it together.
but a big one is, like I'm telling you, it's not like we're not working on that. And like I've told you, the ones that are there at the beginning are going to be seeds and it's going to be a big part of it. But at the end of the day, like we can only do what we can do because I'm not a person that forces the horse to drink the
Yeah,
water. I'm going to let you do it when you can. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if we're just making excuses for ourselves or not really holding ourselves accountable,
exactly.
what to do? At that
Yeah,
point. You know what I mean? I just can hold myself accountable and be responsible to show up, have the classes, try to talk the information with the people, show them the clarity that I have, and have dialogue because I'm always open to learning too. You know what
right.
I mean? It's just I have been doing this for a while, and I don't like really
I
take.
enjoyed the I enjoyed the dialogue because it kind of helps to set the information that I myself have come upon and found and because there's not like a book or anything that you're like here just have this book and it'll teach you how everything goes and blah blah. It's like the way I found all this information, I had to piece it together because reading one thing would lead me to questions that I would have to look the answers for that would give me more information that would make me say, hey, like, how is this correlating? How is this put together to see the bigger picture? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yes.
we can keep at it. We can definitely have a another class. You know what I mean? I was hoping more people came on that
Yes.
weren't a little bit versed or at least posted some questions or something. I did send the links out and did try to get people on here. You know what I mean? I did my effort, but again, I feel people need more effort and they need more. But at the end of the day, the more spoon feeding people get, the more disservice they do to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is
That's
like I
true.
said in the beginning with the 10 steps that people need to know is again the ability to be able to do this on your own and hold
Yes.
yourself accountable if you even just want to be successful in the world.
And
It
see,
was a good conversation, Ray. Oh no, go for it, go for it.
no, no,
I
I said
go
I
ahead.
take notes, and and I write questions of what, like when we're talking, because new things start coming to my
Put
head.
it in the chat. I would be down to like we can answer it along the way or for the next one.
No, see, yeah, like right now it's just like focus on writing them. But see, like what I do is when I'm listening to, which is going back to those things that you said that we need to actively be doing as we're learning things, we're absorbing the information, we're trying to apply it, we're trying to ask more questions about it that are like expanded in the topic, because that's what we need to do, no? Understand, and the only way we're going to understand is by continuing to ask questions. So yeah, to me, like I said, I'm down to continue to get together. I wanted to ask you all, have you ever looked into getting like a TikTok account? Not to just go on any random things, but maybe we could do a live on TikTok, and that's where we'll have more traction on audience.
I
Where
have
we
one,
could,
so I'll set it up on my page and we can put one together maybe for.
you're gonna have to go live on it by your own 3 days if you've never done a live before. So you can just put it to run with like music or a video, be checking on it, let it open it 3 days in a row so you can go live with other individuals.
I have posted videos on it before, so before I thought you needed 100 people before they let you go live.
No, like if you done the live by yourself, you'll go live.
No, yeah, so we'll
So
do that. But I mean, I guess I'm gonna go help Selena with some things, and I'll let you get to what you were
yes,
doing.
yes.
We can always
No,
have another talk. We can plan on.
Thursday. Try to get together Thursday evening, because I know you get out a bit late. Maybe Thursday evening, we could get together and talk a little bit more. Maybe by then we could just do like a WhatsApp call, and maybe with more people that are, because I know it's early and a lot of people go to work, and I don't know if they're available to come in or just be listening from the outside. But maybe Thursday in the evening we can get something going where more people can join
Okay.
on WhatsApp. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Like